And we're live looking at the sun on 193 angstroms. We see a coronal hole just north of the trailing edge of that plage associated with the North Pole coronal hole. And we're giving you 0 minutes of lead time today because it's a Sunday early edition and we're making it abridged. We saw a little unexpected geomagnetic storm last night. AP went all the way up to 5, I believe. So we went live. If you didn't see our video from last night, check that out. Got some magnetosphere movies. That was 48 hours of the sun, by the way. Here's the last 48 hours in 304 angstroms. We see filaments on the northeast as well as the northwest. And we've been watching the filaments that are held in place by that plage. Let's look at the magnetic lines. And there you have the field force lines. We see actually lots of open lines there associated with the North Pole. So we're expecting a powerful coronal hole connection here, and we have already seen an earthquake uptick. Now let's talk about the smAsho mission. Check out smAshomash.org if you're not familiar with it. The mission is to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics. Also to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects. Welcome to space. We all live here. To connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach. To demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems. To publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, including but not limited to sciences such as spectroscopy, chemistry, astrophysics, health, wellness, longevity, cosmology, biology, magnetohydrodynamics, geology, etc. To assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomena in order to optimize value, reduce risk and liability, and save lives and resources, and adapt no matter what the adversity is. And to not be ossified in our beliefs, and to invite those who are into the scientific discussion. So please support us. First of all, by clicking the links below this video in the description section. Just click description, check out the links. For instance, hemplucid.com's Spaced Out campaign, built just for our spaced out viewers. So if you're interested in Hemp Lucid's whole plant tinctures or waxes or kalki or whatever, even for your pet, check out, again, check the links in the description below the video to head to the smAsho Mash Spaced Out campaign, as we're trying to figure out if people will buy stuff associated with my videos. I should say our videos. Now, let's look at the real-time solar wind real quick. Total field located up here in the black line has been dropping over the past 16 hours. We are expecting to see a coronal hole magnetic connection anytime. And don't be surprised if this phi angle drops to around the 180 line throughout the day. Again, that is a large coronal hole associated with the North Pole. Now, last night, our geomagnetic storm was caused by an increase in the solar wind density, which made it all the way up above 60. It was actually steady for over 50 protons per cubic centimeter there for a bit. And it was just over 60. Believe it or not, it has ramped all the way down to a solar minimum condition of 3.63 protons per cubic centimeter. And the solar wind speed has ramped up. So that looks like a coronal hole wind stream, folks. It's got all the signatures of a coronal hole wind stream. And that's what we expect that hit. You can't always see these things. Sometimes they're not obvious. If you want to see the hit on the magnetosphere, again, watch our last video, the one from last night. It was actually yesterday afternoon, but for me, the afternoon is the night because I go to bed at like 6 p.m. Sometimes. Anyway, here we see a little bit greater charge in the magnetotail. Here's the density. And we do see some striations there as the solar wind density has dropped as the speed rises. So standard coronal hole wind stream. Wasn't really expecting it, but that's pretty much what that looks like. And so we went live quickly. Here's the ground geospace magnetic perturbations. We saw some major ones last night, and we actually see some oddities here. We see some magnetic perturbations coming out of the South Atlantic anomaly, centered over South America. We also see South Pole creepage toward Western Australia, perturbations in Eastern Canada, and all across the Pacific Ocean. We'll let that play through a second time, as there's a lot of stuff to see on this map. Courtesy University of Michigan, Geospace Model V1.5. And that's the space weather modeling framework, which, if you're interested in, visit the links below the video. Find this one, click on details, and read about the space weather modeling framework. Thanks, patrons. Patrons. Thanks to you there, you patrons. You're making a huge difference in our operation. And stay tuned for more original content on Patreon. Trying to raise another $5,445. $5,445 by the first day of summer, as I am in the process of getting a new road bike and trying to put as little as possible on credit card. Follow us on Instagram also. It's actually more of a me than an us on Instagram. Instagram.com/smAsho. And also, please visit our cycling sponsor, theveloshop.net. Visit that site for all your cycling needs, or stop in the shop in person and see Becky. Thanks for helping to GoFundMe. We've raised 1/100th of the goal here, and that's almost enough money to buy one tire for this time trial bike. I've already bought 2. I just need a license and I'm ready to race, folks. So look for that to happen soon. Also, no X-ray flares. We saw a huge magnetometer spike associated with that incoming coronal hole wind stream, as seen there. Here's that KP of 5 that we got to last night, just after our stream ended, and then it subsided pretty quickly. We still remain slightly elevated in terms of the solar wind speed. And here we see the signature, the standard electron flux signature of a coronal hole wind stream. That's basically what you expect. A tiny ridge here in the proton flux associated with that 60 protons per cubic centimeter and 50 protons per cubic centimeter data. So pretty standard coronal hole wind stream there. Minor surface charging hazards there over Central America and Northern South America. F2 layer is looking particularly discharged on both the day and the nighttime side. So keep an eye on that throughout the day. That's going to probably charge up a bit, as there is a delay between the solar wind hitting the magnetosphere and the ionosphere charging up. Here's the aurora forecasts. There's the Borealis and there's the Australis. Pretty par for the course. If we're going to look at the Gong 2 top view ecliptic plane field plot, showing us the local magnetic heliospheric environment. And we are expecting a sudden crossing of the polarity here in the current sheet. Oh man, why is the data 8 hours old? Never seen that before. Oh, there we go. All right, there's the newest data. 1 hour and 39 minutes old, folks. So again, approaching this polarity crossing here. Right now, the Earth is in the North Pole associated region. And as that plage sets, you can see it's holding out a bunch of plasma right here. We're going to look at it from the perspective of stereo A, which is located right here where my pointer is. See that circle? This data is gathered with a whole bunch of ground magnetometers, as well as stereo A and stereo B located on the right. Let's look at stereo A's coronagraph. As we've been watching that plasma filament, it looked like it was going to eject yesterday during our live stream. Let's see if it actually did so. Doesn't really appear to be ejecting, but it's still very lengthy. If you look on the right side here, Earth is located out here, about in line with the center of this coronagraph. That's the interplanetary magnetic fields location. We see this plume here, pointing a bit to the south. Not really ejecting, still being held in place by those fields. Let's move on to more slides. Here are the location of your planets. There's a Jupiter opposition tomorrow, or a conjunction, or whatever the heck you call it. I guess a conjunction. And here's where things will be in 1 week. Will be full moon creeping up on Saturn as Mercury creeps up on us. If you're located in a different galaxy watching the videos, please leave a comment, because we're interested to know if you're from the galaxy Cygnus A, strongest radio source in the sky. If I was going to play a radio station from a different galaxy, I'd be listening to Cygnus A. Now, of course, the sun is a more powerful radio station than Cygnus A, but you may find it interesting to realize that a galaxy over 500 million light years away is a stronger radio source than our own galactic core. Anyway, if you get up before dawn, you see Jupiter and Saturn up there on the ecliptic. Venus should be rising soon, and it should be quite nice. Let's take a moment to head to Solar Ham. As I wanted to look at the synoptic map. We've been showing this most days. And there's Marshall's map. Not to be confused with Marshall Mathers. So we see this coronal hole up here is very large and associated with the North Pole. That's a huge earthquake risk. And let's just go to space weather real quick. Note that this 10.7 centimeter radio flux has dropped back down to 68. So we got a serious. Oh, here's the coronal mass ejection we covered yesterday on our live stream. Oh, actually, that's from 6.3. All right. I remember that bubble. Anyway, 10.7 centimeter radio flux back down to 68. So back into solar minimum conditions, which I am predicting to end in September. Anyway, let's move on, as there's still quite a bit of stuff to cover. Check out in-the-sky.org if you want to create a sky map for what's going on above your head. You can even animate it. How cool is that? And it looks like Venus will rise around 5 a.m. If you're on the east coast of the U.S. and you have a low horizon, check that out. It will be epic. We're going to skip cosmic rays entirely. We're going to skip transients, as we covered it in yesterday's live stream. If you want to see the transients that we look at, such as Sagittarius A star and Cygnus X1 and Cygnus X3 and Cygnus A, the radio galaxy, check out yesterday's live stream. Follow us on Twitter if you find it easier to share our videos with your friends and get us unshadow banned. We don't view 1,300 subscribers on YouTube as any kind of a milestone. Also follow us on Facebook.com/smAshomash, the political hack social media organization who will censor you and shadow ban you and deplatform you and attempt to deperson you. Also follow us on Gab, the apparently non-political version of Twitter, another political hack organization. Also follow us on Minds.com, the social media that will not censor you. You see, because big tech kills creativity and Minds encourages it. Minds.com/smAsho. Also, please press like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Visit the links in the description and help support the channel and increase the probability that these videos will keep coming out, as if any minor thing goes wrong, these videos will go away overnight. So please support the channel by subscribing and interacting and leaving us a comment. Speaking of comments, thanks for joining us, Kalo Jan and Wana Song and Harry Vire. I didn't even know you were German, Harry, until you started speaking German. I just instinctively pronounced your last name Vire instead of Wire. Figure that one out. Anyway, please also press the notification bell, as that will increase the probability that you'll actually see our videos when they come out. I doubt it, but it might happen. You might actually see them, folks. So we've seen an earthquake uptick, and I'm expecting this to get worse. Let's go down the list. We see a 4.1 in Mexico. We see a 4.2 in Mexico, a little farther south. This one's interesting. A deep volcano. I mean, a deep quake near a volcano. There's the location of that. Just south of the Redoubt volcano. Check it out. That quake at depth, so over 100 kilometers depth. Is it magmatic activity? I'm not a volcanologist, so I have no freaking idea. Anyway, how about a 5.0 in Papua New Guinea? Also a 5.1. 4.4 in Argentina. That one is at depth, heads up there for a larger quake at the surface. Here's a 4.8 in the Philippines. 4.7 in Chile. Fairly deep, nearly 90 kilometers. Here's a 4.8 at Fiji, and that's right at Fiji. Heads up Fiji for a larger quake at the surface. That one, 551 kilometers depth. If that one hit at the surface, that would be about a 6 magnitude quake. So shout out Fijians. If you're watching, please leave a comment. And here's a 5.3, also at a slightly less deep depth, 113 kilometers. 4.9 at New Zealand. Southwest portion, the western side of the plate boundary. Let us know if you felt that one, New Zealand viewers. Shout out Eddie Dawkins if you're watching. Good luck in your next track race. Here's a 4.6 in Russia. Pretty close to Japan there. Here's a 4.6 in the Philippines. 4.9 in Russia. 4.3 in Japan. 4.8 at Papua New Guinea at depth. Shout out Papua New Guinea. Another deep quake. Heads up for a larger quake at the surface there. Here's a 4.8 at Japan. 4.2 at Pakistan as the Middle Eastern quakes continue. About once every 2 days, we see a significant quake in the Middle East. Shout out Middle Eastern viewers. And here's a very far north quake, north of Iceland here. A 4.7 off the east coast of Greenland. And a 4.2 at El Salvador. Let's look at pressure maps. We're going to let this play. Here we are at midday today. Let me move this map a little bit. Give you more of a similar view here. There we go. Here's midday Monday approaching. That low over northern Canada is just persistent, as well as that anticyclone over Iceland. Check out the anticyclone. You see a clockwise rotating mass in the northern hemisphere. That's typically an anticyclone. I would also note, east of Japan, there's some weird systems there. That does not look normal to me. Let's bring that back and let that play through again. Heads up Japan. That is an anomalous low right there. Anyway, let's move on before we become old and gray. Already old and gray. Volcano rundown. Tokono still in the list, still producing a 7,000-foot plume. Fuego. Emissions have dissipated. Revenador. Occasional emissions producing a 16,000-foot plume via explosive activity. And Sabancaya producing a 26,000-foot ash plume. Please do not attempt to jump a soapbox racer over Sabancaya if you happen to vacation in Peru. We have weather warnings all across the U.S. Visit weather.gov. Nevada's freezing. Idaho's got freeze warnings. California has a great mixture of flash flood warnings and red flag advisories. So I guess the place is going to burn as well as flood. More flash flood warnings in Arizona, in Texas, flood watches all over the East. It is just a disaster. Let us know how your garden is doing. Ours is, well, the best it's ever been because I've never grown one before this year. Proof of concept solutions to problems, folks. So we see it's actually snowing in Wyoming right now, as well as in parts of Montana. So it's June 9th, and it's still snowing in the Rockies. We're going to zoom in on these. Oh, by the way, it's been the wettest May on record in the U.S., and I would really appreciate it if this would load. Let's try again. Come on, AccuWeather. We're going to zoom in on Kansas here. We're hoping that Toto has not been sent to Oz. Shout out Tony Heller if you're watching the video. Let us know if, oh man, that's bad news right there. Great Bend, you are getting hammered. Selena, you are in the crosshairs. Emporia, Topeka, shout out. You dudes are all in the crosshairs. That's probably going to produce damaging wind, hail, all that sort of stuff. Check out lightningmaps.org if you're not familiar. There's a lightning situation. Hutchinson, you got thunder rolling in. Let's look at the water vapor map to show you the scenario in the upper atmosphere, as water vapor sometimes hides. You can only see it with the naked eye if it's condensed onto a cloud in most cases. So there's the current Earth spot. I would notice incredible electromagnetic field force lines down here in the convergence zone, as well as penumbral lines coming out of this system. Those parallel lines, which are at a 90-degree angle to the mode of motion. Hall currents, folks, Hall currents. Hall currents are what form the Earth's weather. It's not just temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, and wind. That stuff is all mitigated by Hall currents. Anyway, let's move on, as there's still more stuff to cover, and we've reached the that is an ass and that is a hole in the ground section. Thanks again for joining, everybody, and taking the time to comment. We really appreciate it. Heidbreyer, that's a legit German name there. Heidbreyer. Nice. Thanks for watching, Wana Song. Staying up late tonight, huh? What time is it there? I know it's a weird time zone thing. Seriously, snow and rain, go away. Anyway, let's do some education here. Nuclear. The definition is of pertaining to or constituting a nucleus, like an atomic nucleus, or a nuclear reaction or being a weapon, blah, 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 nuclear power. You know, it's not a word? Nuclear. Nuclear. Don't say it. Nuclear. It ain't a word. There is no nucleus. It's a nucleus. If you say nuclear, I will drop a nuclear bomb on you. Now, a lot of people wonder where that came from. Well, a guy with the location of U.S. president known as Richard Nixon got on stage and said nuclear back in the 1970s, I believe. And that's one of the theories as to where the term nuclear came from. So don't say nuclear. Please say nuclear. Instead, don't say nuclear. Say nuclear. It drives me nuts. Check out nextdoor.com if you want to network your neighborhood, which I highly recommend. You'll be able to trade with your neighbors, figure out who's doing what. You'll be able to watch each other's properties when they go on vacation, and you'll learn who lives in your neighborhood. I mean, check it out. I'm the next door lead in my neighborhood because we didn't have one where I'm located, so I created one. We have about 50%. Actually, we're over 50%, I think, now for our neighborhood. Nancy Pelosi likes it while she's pushing her bike. So I would like it too. In fact, I do like it, which is why I set up our neighborhood. Great opportunities for contractors and so on. Here's a Reuters article. California utility to cut power to 27,000 customers to reduce wildfire risk. So we were talking about those red flag warnings. This article on Reuters is linked in the description. If you're from California, let us know if you know anything about power cuts. It's pretty interesting as PG&E has been slacking and creating massive liability. Some believe even causing some believe PG&E even caused some of the wildfires, if not the most severe ones. Why you should not underestimate the severity of the coming recession. All the key market statistics are in place. Here's a Zero Hedge article documenting it in great detail. The U.S. economy is not good. It's a bubble. And all of these high stock prices, which are massively overvalued, were pumped up with cheap money. So corporate debt has increased. Government debt has increased. We've been calling for the government to reduce spending, and they're just not doing it. One of the major critiques I have against President Trump. Dear President Trump, reduce government spending, eliminate entire cabinet departments as you've promised, and I will be much more of an advocate for you. Because when you lower taxes, you got to lower spending. So please lower the spending. Please lower the spending. Druckenmiller, if Bernie became president, stocks would crash 40%, but we'd all be equally poor. Now, this is a very interesting conversation on CNBC, picked up by Zero Hedge, featuring Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, Druckenmiller, a very common guest. And basically, they're mainly talking about Fed policy here, as the Fed is largely responsible for the hyperinflated stock market. Keep in mind that the stock market is not the economy. It is only one small aspect. The economy is the flow of all goods, services, and currencies around the whole world. So just one country's stock market isn't the economy. Don't misconstrue economic success with the stock market. It also includes the commodities market, the bond market, the currency market, and things like government spending, which aren't even markets. Government spending is the loss of a market, the loss of economic use. Unfortunately, an institution that was created to save all Americans has been hijacked by the very bankers it regulates. Now, this is a perfect example of why Bernie Sanders is such an economic illiterate, because he doesn't even understand what the Federal Reserve is, which is why he's outraged that a banking cartel is run by bankers. It's pretty sad when you think of it. Maybe he's angry that hospitals are run by doctors and that governments are run by politicians. Sadly, Bernie wants politicians to run banks and pretty much every other aspect of your life, which is one of the many reasons why he is such an idiot. Now, Bernie actually believes higher taxes will stimulate the economy. He also fills his swimming pool by taking water from the deep end, spilling a bunch, flapping his lips, bumbling around like a fool, and then pouring whatever's left in the shallow end. Also, here's another quote. This is my favorite Bernie quote ever. Please recite this one to your friends. At the end of the day, you don't necessarily need a choice of 23 underarm spray deodorants or of 18 different pairs of sneakers while children are hungry in this country. Now, I don't know where he shops for deodorant or where he shops for sneakers. Sorry to dunk on you again, Bernie, but you are an ignoramus. So please come on the show and debate me about economics. It'll be fun, or it'll be funny, since you know nothing about economics. Anyway, if we're going to institute any of Bernie's ideas, we're going to need a lot more than deodorant because they stink. Let's go to custom views of the sun. I haven't played any yet today, and I will open up the chat momentarily. All you folks looking to get in the chat, please leave a comment as we're about 2 minutes from being outie. I'm going to look at the colored magnetogram real quick to get a indication of what's going on with that plage. And really, it's like two plages. I mean, it's a huge plage, and it's holding a massive amount of plasma in place via its magnetic fields. Otherwise, not a lot going on, folks. Solar minimum conditions are in effect. Go to the 94 angstroms view. Thanks again for leaving comments, folks. We really do appreciate that. Again, visit the links in the description. Help support the channel if you can, as we are looking to go full time and produce nothing but astrophysics videos all day. We're looking to make your donations tax deductible by the end of the year. Now, while we're looking at this 94 angstroms view, I would note one thing. The North Pole coronal hole has increased in size, and that is a bad sign for solar activity, as it was the North Polar field was increasing in strength. And actually, let's do one little bonus section here. We're going to go to solon.info real quick. If you're not familiar with solon.info, please check it out. It's got some data that nobody else is covering. Here's the 10.7 centimeter radial flux, which is this black line. We saw it popped up, and now it's popped back down again. Let me see here. It looks like the last update was in April for the solar polar field cycles. So yeah, anyway, solon.info's got some good stuff. So check that out. I've forgotten how to navigate my own browser. We'll do one more view here about how about 304 angstroms for once. This kind of makes the coronal holes look bigger. I'm sorry, not 304. Uh, 211 angstroms. There we go. My brain's functioning again. Anyway, that North Pole coronal hole is very large. It's associated with the North Polar field, the sun's Z field. And it's about time to call it a day, so we are out of here. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Again, visit the links in the description. Help support the channel if possible. There's a lot more stuff coming out, and expect to see more activity in our channel, not less. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink, and if you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Use the proper instruments like the SDO. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.